Five-star cornerback Havon Finney picked LSU earlier this week. His dad tells you why. Next, Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt McMahon. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So sincerely, thank you for that. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com. and get 50% off your first year. Okay, we got a lot to get to today, y'all. LSU picked up a commitment on Monday from five-star cornerback Havon Finney. Yes, it is pronounced Havon, Havon, but Havon. And we gave you a little breakdown of the commitment on Monday. Shea Dixon from On 3 gave us a little bit of how it happened. Well, I had a chance to sit down with Havon Finney Sr. on Wednesday and kind of went through a lot of this. The surprise announcement wasn't a surprise to Havon Finney Sr., only to his wife, Havon Jr.'s mother, who got the commitment surprise on her birthday. It was supposed to be a top 3 announcement, but ultimately they decided they knew where they wanted to go, and it was going to be LSU. And so Havon made the decision. It was something that was quietly known to the LSU staff and then ultimately surprised his mom and everybody else on Monday. And y'all, this is a dude, 6'3", 170 pounds. He's out of Sierra Canyon in the Los Angeles area. He was a 2027 prospect, the number one. Think Jakeem Stewart from Edmond Carr in New Orleans, formerly of St. Aug. Number one prospect for 2026, reclassified for 2025. 4, borderline 5, 4-star. Same thing here. Number one cornerback in the country for 2027, reclassified for 2026. Rivals has him as a 5-star. In the composite, he's the number 55 overall prospect. He's a 4-star composite. He'll be a 5-star. He's awesome, whatever it may be. So ultimately, I asked Havon Finney Sr. about why the decision to pick LSU. And he told a familiar refrain. And of course, it all led back primarily to Corey Raymond.
Man, well, first of all, I think if you're a DB and you have aspirations of going to the next level, on the field, but off the field, Corey Raymond is just a phenomenal guy. I don't know how many times Havon and I have been to Baton Rouge, but I'm going to say at least 10 times, right? And the interaction with Corey Raymond always gets better, right? You know what he knows about football. You know the guys that he's been able to coach, but he still seems very authentic and just a real guy. You know what I mean? Off the field is probably as good on the field. So he's just a good guy.
There's a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot, but there was a segment of the LSU fan base that thought Corey Raymond lost his fastball, couldn't recruit as much, stopped recruiting, couldn't coach. And I pushed back against that vehemently because you don't forget how to backpedal, flip your hips, high point a ball. You even forget that. Look at Pete Jenkins. He's 82. He's still being recruited by the highest profile coaches in America to go teach their defensive line coaches defensive line technique. And Corey Raymond never lost the ability or want to recruit. Ed Orgeron got fired. Corey Raymond wasn't retained. A lot of guys left. What if Eli Ricks never left? What if Dwight McGlothern never left? You never had the dramatic drop-off that you did having to rely on the portal those first 2 years. Maybe you never had the situation in 2023 with a bunch of transfer defensive backs that were completely inept. Hindsight's 2020 at this point. Well, it's actually not because I hated the decision to let Corey go at the time. But in any event, you hear the father of one of the top defensive back recruits in the country say that about Corey Raymond. It's pretty validating about the guy you have coaching your cornerbacks. And for anybody who might think that maybe Corey lost his fastball, tell that to Havon Finney Sr. I also asked Mr. Finney about the rest of the staff, Blake Baker, Brian Kelly, and how they manage this recruitment of his son, specifically starting with Blake Baker. Give a listen to this.
Oh man, Blake is my guy. Blake Baker, phenomenal guy. He's, again, the entire staff has been really, really great to us. They've definitely made my son feel like a priority, and I know it's a dicey game. You got to recruit, but he has absolutely felt like a priority to LSU. And if you really think about it, we've had an opportunity to sit down and be with Blake Baker several times. Brian Kelly, I mean, a lot. Everyone over there. Frank. I mean, I don't think there's been no stone unturned when it comes to LSU, and I think that's the part that really drew us to them.
I got two things that are my primary takeaways there. Number one, Havon Finney Sr. told me that he and his son visited LSU about 10 times. The first visit was last spring of 2024. So they were here a year ago, spring of 24. And in the last year, they've made roughly 10 visits to Baton Rouge. They were here for the Alabama game. Unfortunately, it didn't go LSU's way, but it was a day where they got to see LSU, Tiger Stadium, full throat, full day of tailgating, all that stuff. If you're going to make 10 visits to LSU in a year, that's almost once a month. Almost, not exactly, but almost once a month. You're in. You love it. You're committed. We said a lot of the same things about Bryce Underwood. I do understand. And Bryce is now at the University of Michigan, so things can change. The biggest difference is I don't know that I see a owner of Oracle situation with Havon Finney that you saw with Bryce Underwood. The weird one-off where the billionaire is married to a woman who's a Michigan fan who says, honey, we need this quarterback. So he strokes a $12 million check. LSU has been as aggressive in the portal era. Well, let me rephrase this. In the last cycle, LSU has been as willing to spend as anybody. And if that's part of it, I don't think it's going to be a situation where they're outspent for Havon Finney by either USC or Oregon. As strange as that may sound because of the Phil Knight money, and I get it, I don't think that's the case. 10 times they've come to Baton Rouge. That's number one. Number two is listen to him talk about the staff. They made his son a priority, and they felt that, which is awesome because that's still the part of the relational recruiting game that matters. I understand that you can have a look. I hate to keep defaulting to Bryce Underwood. It's just the most obvious example. LSU had an amazing relationship. Joe Sloan basically took up residence in Michigan for Bryce Underwood. That relationship there was awesome, and ultimately money trumped it. I don't blame Bryce Underwood for that. He got a massive payday. You take it. I get it. But if both things are there, then the relationship would win out. And clearly that's what happened here because Oregon and Southern Cal can pay money too. But if all's equal, then the relationship wins out. And that's where LSU did the best job. Shea Dixon's also talked to us about this over the past couple of years. And if you're an everydayer, you've heard me say this, but I'll say it again, maybe for those who are hearing it for the first time. It's never been more important than now to finish second in recruiting. It's why you maintain these relationships because it's so easy for guys to go in the portal. Look at Jakeem Jackson, for example. Jakeem Jackson's a guy that committed to Corey Raymond at Florida. Well, he leaves. Where does he end up? At LSU with Corey Raymond. So however it may go, maintaining those relationships are massive because you can get guys, but also if you don't get someone, they go in the portal later, they could maybe end up at your place after the fact. Now, I'm not done with the conversation with Havon Finney. And by the way, if you want to hear the entire conversation, it is on the After Further Review, the AFR LSU YouTube channel, if you want to check that out. That's my daily radio show, After Further Review in Baton Rouge. But that's where we had Mr. Finney. But if you want to hear the whole conversational 14 minutes, it's all on the AFR LSU YouTube channel if you want to check it out. But when we come back, two other things. One, the decision to reclassify, and two, moving far, far, far away from home. We'll get to that as we continue. Locked On LSU, your team every day. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. So what if you could jump into your favorite Xbox titles without needing your console in every room? How do you game when you're not in front of your main setup? Hotel stays, family visits. What if you're just in your bedroom? Fire TV Stick 4K makes it possible to keep playing from almost anywhere. And if you already have a console, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with, allowing you to take you or your kids' games wherever you plug in. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. One more time, that's Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, second gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second gen, and Fire TV Cube third gen. As we continue our conversation with Havon Finney Sr., one of the giant takeaways that I had certainly was the decision that Havon Finney Jr. has made to reclassify. Now, I just mentioned Jakeem Stewart was the number one player in the country for 2026 out of St. Aug in New Orleans. He transfers to Edna Carr so that he can reclassify to the class of 2025. And as we know, ultimately ends up signing with Southern Cal. But a year ago, Colin Hurley did the same thing out of Jacksonville. Reclassified, showed up at LSU as a 16-year-old. So players reclassifying now has become in vogue. Quinn Ewers really kind of started the trend several years ago. I asked Havon Finney Sr. about his son's decision to reclassify from 2027 to 2026.
When he went to school in the 9th grade, he was a varsity starter at Sierra Canyon. And I think he knew that if I can play here in a Division I league with Sierra Canyon, I can probably, do even better like next year. And so he started to bring it up to my wife and I and said, hey, if I have a great season next year, can I reclassify? And I said, you sure? And he said, yeah. He said, I'd love to do it. And I think just being honest and transparent, Havon went to his college counselor without us knowing, and asked his counselor what would the process be like for him to reclassify. And once he did that, we surely got on the ball of him taking additional classes. He had to run it through the school first, which Sierra Canyon's an amazing school. They try their best to accommodate anything that's going on. And what he was able to do, start doing his classes and started that process. And the rest is history. Wow. So that's where we are now. Yep.
This is obviously a very ambitious young guy. As you heard Havon Finney Sr. say there, Sierra Canyon's a great school. And here you have a young guy that as a freshman realized he was going to be pretty good and put the wheels in motion at that point. Talked to his parents and actually went and talked to his high school counselor without even telling his parents, like, what is it going to take for me to reclassify? So he's taking extra classes and he's going to be on LSU's campus next January. Or I would presume even maybe December for bowl practices like DJ Pickett was this year. Only DJ Pickett was in the midpoint of his senior year. Havon Finley's going to be in the midpoint of his junior year of high school, but will have already graduated, which is amazing to think about that. So you have a very ambitious young guy, very smart young guy who's able to do that as well and has the full support of his parents. The other thing that was very impressive was the understanding about the decision to leave home. Here you have a young guy who's from the Los Angeles area, was being recruited by Southern Cal, also Oregon, West Coast teams, but he's going to go across the country. I mean, it's a 4-hour flight, y'all. You're flown to LA from Baton Rouge. It's a 4-hour flight. So it's not easy, but they've made that trip 10 times already in the last year. So it's something they're willing to do. And Havon Finney Sr. was on board with it.
The way college football is now, you have to go where it's best for you and that you've been able to build the best relationship. I think if you can play football, you can play anywhere. And I do believe that the SEC has a brand of football that is unmatched. I believe that, and I'm a West Coast guy. But I do believe that you have to go where you can, where you have the relationship and also where, you feel that it's right for you.
It's also worth mentioning that if Havon Finney had landed in either at Southern Cal or Oregon, it would have been in the Big Ten. And half of your league schedule is going to send you across the country anyway. I mean, you're going to end up playing in State College or College Park, Maryland, or Piscataway, New Jersey, or Madison, Wisconsin. I mean, you're getting on a plane and flying, a handful of times a year anyway. So this makes it more complicated, no doubt. But if you want to play for the best, like you said, with Corey Raymond, if you're a DB who has ambitions of getting to the next level, and the best defense with Blake Baker, and in the best league in the SEC, go do it. So Havon Finney, now a member of LSU's 2026 class, the number one class in the country, 10 commits, including one of the top defensive backs in the country in Havon Finney. If you missed our conversation the past couple of days, either with Shea Dixon or our initial takeaways from Havon Finney's commitment, you can go back and check out those full episodes here on Locked on LSU. But ultimately, the gist of it is you're talking about a position group at cornerback where LSU was elite for so long, earned the moniker of DBU. Corey Raymond wasn't retained when Brian Kelly was hired. The talent eroded. Now you're building it back. And that was such a core of what LSU was. And they're getting there again. In 2025, Mansour Delane checks the box. DJ Pickett coming in. Ashton Stamps is returning for another year. And then Jakeem Jackson was a top 5 overall cornerback in the country in his class. His career's just sort of been derailed by injury. And then you could start to project forward with Havon Finney coming in 2026. A potential Havon Finney DJ Pickett pairing is enticing to think. Yeah, Corey Raymond's got it rolling again there in the secondary, and the return of DBU is well underway. The return of the LSU men's basketball program, could that be underway? Tigers landed another commitment on Wednesday. We'll tell you who it is next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. You ever look at your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, shopping online, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO. It gives you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investment, spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. It also offers all-in-one convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. The LSU men's basketball team landed another portal transfer on Wednesday. This time it was a wing. Pablo Tamba, who spent the last year at UC Davis. He's a 6'7" wing, and he picked LSU on Wednesday. Now, he's a native of Spain who began his college career at Idaho State. What a transition from España to Idaho State. Then he transferred to Indian River State College before winding up at UC Davis for the last 2 seasons. So, You're talking about a guy that is well-traveled, who's played 4 seasons already of college basketball. Last year as a junior at UC Davis, Tamba started every game, averaged 11 points and 5 boards, was over 61% from the floor, scored in double figures 16 times in 32 games. So in half their games, he was a double-figure scorer. And he profiles as a wing defender who can add some length and experience on the perimeter. It's interesting that he's listed as a forward, but I can only imagine he's a small forward, because one of the things that I was told about LSU in this transfer class is that this was with really one spot left that they were looking to fill. They were more than likely looking to fill a wing, either a 2 or a 3. Well, you've got your 3 here, obviously, in a small forward who can go defend the wing. So I'm really encouraged here by what Matt McMahon has done. They have been really impressive so far in the portal and remaking this roster. Of course, Tamba's going to play in presumably in the front court, but he can also be a wing defender. 6'7", averaged 28 minutes per game this past season, originally from Spain, and with that international basketball experience. You've already got Jalen Reed and Robert Miller back. You've added Mike Nwoko and Markel Sutton, so it would stand a reason that freshman Matthew Gillul coming in. It stands to reason that you've got enough size, and at 6'7", maybe this becomes an athletic wing defender. I would highly recommend, by the way, if you haven't seen it, there is a highlight of Tamba playing an international basketball game where he's on the right wing, and it's a catch and drive, and he drives the baseline and does a pump reverse dunk. I mean, it is a thing of beauty to see how that all played out. So you got to do with great athleticism on the wing, who can shoot it a little bit and certainly can go create around the basket. LSU now at 11 scholarship players, and maybe another couple of players to round out the roster. Curtis Givens was a guy that we told you was not, we just told you. I mean, we told you initially, and then Matt McMahon confirmed it. He did an interview with Tiger Rack Radio where he talked about Curtis Givens returning along with Jalen Reed and Robert Miller. Well, Givens entered the transfer portal, so now you're looking for another player to replace Givens. And it is worth mentioning, while the presumed house settlement will increase scholarship limits to 15 for men's college basketball, the assumption is nobody is going to award 15 scholarships. In the revenue share era, that's going to dilute your revenue pool too much to where it just doesn't make sense to have that many guys. So you're at 11. Are you going to try to get to 12 or 13? Odds are, I mean, look, with Curtis Givens, you would have been at 12. So I would assume you're going to try to add at least one more, if nothing else, for depth and numbers on this team. Hey, look, as my friend Charles Hannegriff is fond of saying, an empty chair doesn't have 5 fouls, meaning no matter who you have on the bench, they got 5 fouls to give. They can give you something, which is better than an empty chair. So if you got the roster spots, use them. See how LSU does. Okay, that's going to do it for us here on today's episode of Locked On LSU, your team every day. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. Now for your second listen, go check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes of the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're on podcasts, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked On LSU, your team every day.